Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
The following podcast is brought to you exclusively by the Rad Rob Radio Network.
This is PBA champion Kyle Troop, and you're listening to Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. As you know, JP Jr. used to be introduced as the sexiest man in bowling, and now the world. But he doesn't have the best hair in the world. I do. Sorry, bud, but you know the deal. Pick it out. Fear the fro, baby.
Welcome to Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. A hard-hitting, in-depth, cutting-edge look into the world of bowling. This podcast will not only cover all things bowling, but will also give you a raw look into real-life issues. You'll get unfettered access into the mind of one of the most gifted bowlers of this or any other generation. So without further ado, let's introduce you to the hosts of the show. Rad Rob, Rob Francois. Rad Rob, Rob Francois. Dr. Ocho. Dr. Ocho. And the incomparable Johnny Petraglia Jr. Johnny Petraglia Jr.
Hey guys, welcome back to Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. I'm your host, Rad Rob, Rob Francois. This is episode number 61. 61 episodes already. And we skipped a few weeks. I mean, we could have been at like 90 by now. But we had Danny Wiseman on last week. That was the big episode 60. So, John Sparone's in the house. What up, dude? What's going on? Art, fuck. Art, fuck. Hey, Art. Frank Testa's in the house. Hello. Mark Boris, what's going on? I forgot what I was supposed to do. Oh, yeah, I got to bring in Ocho. Hi, Ocho.
There's way too much ado going on. When there's supposed to be without further ado, you're adoing. So you should don't next time and get the show rolling. I'm still in Mardi Gras mode, man.
So what do you have on your face?
I'm a kitty.
Also joining us is the third member of the team. He is the sexiest man in the world, and he does not have the greatest hair in the world, as we heard from Kyle Troop. Are you okay, dude? You're breathing heavier than normal.
Come on, let's go!
Please welcome Johnny Petraglia Jr. What's up, JP?
Not too much, guys. How you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. I just don't know what the hell Ocho's doing.
I think he looks great. Every time I never know that it's a mask over the mask, so I feel like it's a different mask every week now, but apparently it's not. It's just...
I don't mean to ruin it. You know, playing peekaboo with Gabriella is a little bit of a thing. You'll get on it, though. You'll get the hang of it soon.
Got it.
I just want to know why.
Usually I cover my face or my eyes when I'm playing peekaboo with somebody, but
that's fair.
If you think that mask is doing it, excellent. Hi, everybody. Hi, Dave, Valerie, Derek. John.
Derek's in the house.
Good to see everybody.
Hey, Derek. We got Valerie. Good evening.
We got chicks in the house. Now we're talking.
We got Dave Picow.
Yeah. Nice try on Art's last name.
Yeah.
Dylan, I'm glad to hear the ball will be there tomorrow. That's excellent. Perfect.
Awesome. Hello, Dylan.
It seems to be a extremely goodie. Everybody really likes that Black Widow.
Hello, Jerry. Hello, Keegan.
Everybody's shuffling in. We better be on our game tonight.
What's up, guys? Thank you all for being here. Rusty's in the house, too. What's up, Rusty?
Chris, miss you, buddy. Russ, love you, bro. Sherry, hello. Good to see you. Keegan. All right, well, we may as well get something going here. So let's ado.
What
do you want to open
Cheryl's
with?
here too. Good Lord. Everybody's here. Look at that. I'm impressed.
It's a popular Wednesday.
Rolling in.
We don't even have a guest this week. We have Steph's here. Oh, hey, Steph. Stephanie's my favorite. Robert, what's up? What's going on? Everybody, dude, this is a banging show already. We're 30 people watching, so we are going to talk about the Wichita Classic, and Simo is en fuego. What a performance by Simo the entire tournament. I mean, he was in the top 5 or at least top 3, like pretty much the entire tournament. Both of us watched this on Bold TV. Johnny, what were your thoughts on Simo's performance?
Typical. I mean, typical of one of the best the sport's ever seen.
The usual. It was all right.
Yeah. He's, I'll tell you what he did on the show was extremely, that was about the most impressive thing. You know, a lot of people will say when it comes to Anthony, oh, it's impressive that he's won a PBA event, throwing a backup ball. He's versatile. He can hook the whole lane. He can throw it, but to get in a zone on a 46-foot length pattern or a 46-foot pattern where the laws of the game basically tell you can't play the zone that he was in, and then to go out there and do it with urethane on a condition and a pattern that nobody else is even attempting to do that. It was an absolute just awesome expo of the raw talent that he possesses. That's really all I have to say. It's I can't wait to see how many titles Anthony wins. I always use the bodybuilding or a baseball comparison just because those are two things I'm into. But like Jay Cutler won Mr. Olympia 4 times, but he only won Mr. Olympia 4 times because he was in the era of Ronnie Coleman, which is the greatest bodybuilder of all time. And Ronnie won 8. And to this day, nobody else has won 8, right? But if you take Ronnie Coleman out of the equation, Jay Cutler has at least 7 or 8 Olympia titles minimum.
Right.
So Anthony Simonson is in an era with Jason Belmonte. So the only reason Anthony hasn't won 20 titles instead of the 11 or 12 that he's already got and the couple majors that he's got is because he's against the king, you know. So
does he have a chance to not outlast? I mean, Belmo's is he in his 40s by now?
No,
Belmo?
he's
gonna be in his
he's my age. I think he's
late
1 year
72?
older than me. 39, I want to say.
Oh, my math is off.
And
39. And what's Simo? 25-ish? 27.
Mid-20s.
27.
That's all right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, no, maybe not. Because again, you know what? Here's the thing. Because these two-handers, we talked about this, last year maybe, about we don't know what musculature is going to be overworked over time. The injuries are going to be similar, but as far as the release only, from the release on. But the approach, the bend over, there's so many different muscles you're using. So we haven't found out if being a two-hander is actually beneficial for longevity or not yet.
True.
That's a great point. But, you know, honestly, this is a good topic right now because you're a doctor. So let me ask you a question based off, because you've always talked about how bowling being an asymmetrical sport, you know, we do everything kind of one-sided. Everything
If you held 2 balls at once, you'd be symmetrical. It'd be safer. Obviously, it's awkward, but go ahead.
Right. So, like, we know that if you're a baseball pitcher, you know, the chances of developing tennis elbow or some kind of rotator cuff injury is pretty high, or it's pretty normal. You know that concussions are a big part of NFL football. You know that if you get in a boxing ring, you're risking your life every time you're in a boxing ring or UFC ring. So what do you see? Because again, nobody has this true answer yet because there aren't any two-handers that are older yet. You know what I mean? There's some people that have taken up two-handed at a later age, but not a two-hander that's been doing it their whole life that's old and say a Belmo. So what do you, when you watch the physical game of a two-hander, what do you as a doctor foresee future physical issues being?
I think where your thoracic and your lumbar meets. Everybody knows the thoracic spine are where the ribs are, and your lumbar is where a lot of your trunk rotation comes from. That's going to be the area because that's where the bend is for the two-handers. And they have the weight in. Anytime weight is away from you, it's bad for you. Now they're cradling it, so they might have it a little different, but they're also torquing a little differently because they have to open up just on their backswing. So they might be just throwing off their back, of course, asymmetrically, and it probably won't be both sides of their back. It'll probably be whatever, if they're right-handed, it'll probably be the left side of their back that's going to get overdeveloped from that throw, from opening up and relaxing the right side. But has anyone ever studied the mechanics and what muscles are even used when anyone throws two-handed? That's the other thing. I almost wonder if I could see it being back and maybe I think it's probably better on the knees because you're still more compact. You know, like you said, when the ball's away from you, it's bad. And again, with one hand, now you're really asymmetrical. So are they? I think it's what's bad with the bowlers? Their wrist, their elbow, their knees. Usually,
typically, yeah.
I think their wrists are probably going to be fine because they're cradling the whole time and they're holding two hands. Not fine. They're still throwing a 16 or a 15-pound rock 1,000 times a month. So there's going to be overuse injuries. But I think low backs. I think low backs are going to be. Low backs are going to be the issue, basically, but like asymmetrical, like SI joint low back, and from your sacroiliac joint, which is just above your buttocks, all the way up to where the ribs start. That's going to be something new, I think. I don't want it to be, and maybe they're addressing it as we speak, because they might say, hey, there's a little tweak right here, so they're doing therapy in the meantime. So it's this time that we have to wait and see. There's no golf swing that's one-handed to find out if a one-handed golf swing is worse for you. So, we're in uncharted territory, like you said, actually.
Totally. It's a good point.
Style-wise, though, Johnny, especially like Simo, who gets so low to the line, when he's 50 and 60, I don't think he's going to be able to do that.
Well, that was kind of what I was.
Right? Can you throw two-handed standing up, without a knee bend?
Well, that's the low back. I mean, that's it.
That would be my concern is like when you look at Anthony, what Anthony does through the bottom is, first off, Anthony, if you want to go by the book, Anthony does a lot of things wrong in the approach in the respect that he tilts extremely far forward. I mean, he leans almost parallel to the ground, right?
Yeah.
But he's so strong and so athletic and so balanced that he can actually get his swing underneath his body, even though it's virtually at a 90-degree angle. So looking at somebody like Anthony, when I analyze Anthony's game looks like it'll have a harder time standing the test of time than when you compare him to somebody like a Kyle Troop. Kyle Troop looks very controlled and relaxed and very together on his way to the foul line. Belmo looks very controlled and relaxed with a little bit more aggression than Kyle Troop to the foul line.
I was just going to say that. Basically, it looks like they're using more slow twitch, and Simo's using a lot of fast twitch. Now, slow twitch, you're for longevity. You're balancing yourself. You're using musculature in a like doing yoga, tai chi, stuff like that. Fast twitch would be an explosive bench press. Now, again, we're talking different spectrums here, but it looks like if there were a difference, Belmo, Troop are using a little more slow. They're all using fast twitch because you have to throw this rock.
Of course.
But they've controlled it to where it's not explosive. And explosive is where injuries can be.
John, that's a good question about Jesper because, Jesper, again, I don't really think that anything looks horrible with Jesper, even though his approach is really funky. He's got that insanely wide pivot step that goes dead left, which is so strange. But it's partially the reason why the follow-through has to go in front of his face to keep the ball on line, right? But Jesper doesn't look nearly as volatile to me as Simo does when you're comparing the two-handed style, from one to the other. But I like what Valerie said here, like as we age, can't bend as well and bones wear out. I totally understand that. Like I'm experiencing that at 38. Like I'll throw shots in league that I feel like are good shots and they're just not going to my intended target. And my teammates, Stephanie's here. Stephanie's one of the people that's watched me, and I'm like, I feel like I'm throwing it really good. And she's like, you're not getting down at all. You're almost like your knee bend used to be so crisp, and now it's like it's not there anymore. I'm like, oh my God, I go back on video and I'm standing virtually like I have maybe a 10-degree bend in my knee. And I'm like, I have to mentally think about bending at the line now. And I'm not even 40 yet. So I definitely agree with her statement. Yeah.
Well, these are laws of nature too. That's just it. I mean, that's the one thing you can't even hide from. All the therapy and adjustments and massage and cortisones in the world. Well, cortisones will wear you out, obviously, but all the natural therapy and stretching, and you can delay it, but you can't stop it. That's the thing. And the issue might be with a two-hander is the instant they do have an injury. And you might even see like mechanical changes or something. So that could be something we see down the line too. When we do see an injury, how do they have to cope with it? Are they able to get back to the exact way they were? Or are they not as deep? Are they less of a follow through, less of a reach, things like that?
Right. And like what Michael says here about another guy, Spencer Robarge, that's another young guy who has a more volatile two-handed game. You know, I mean, he's way more quote unquote fast twitch than say like a Kevin Williams. Kevin Williams is a little bit gentler to the foul line compared to Spencer. Anyway,
Johnny, I don't know. I don't know how any of them can. Sorry, I don't know how anybody can do that when they get older. Like your dad learned to adjust, you know, by not bending his knee as much, but that's a lot easier to do when you're not twisting your arms and your hips, you know, sideways and having to come back around. Like, to me, I don't think it's sustainable. I mean, it'll be really interesting to see what they do if they hit the senior tour or if they just retire. Maybe they decide they can't do it.
Well, again, I mean, we've seen some of the best players in the world, like Walter Ray is in his 60s, and we've seen him try two-handed. So it's certainly going to be, you could certainly do it at an older age. But again, we're curious about the time under tension, so to speak.
Yeah.
A couple thoughts, because I haven't hit any of Keegan's questions yet. Keegan, Sean Maldonado, very gentle game. If anything, because of the hop, I feel like he has the least amount of pressure on himself compared to the other two-handers, just because there's not a lot of moving parts there. And like Oach said earlier, it's a very compact game. Same thing with Packy. Packy's got really fast feet. He's long and lean, but I mean, Packy looks like a one-hander. Like he throws it like a traditionalist. He just happens to throw it with two hands. Stephanie says, have you noticed a performance difference in either direction since coming off of hurting my back? Yeah, I did. But it's strange. It didn't have anything to do with my back. I mean, the first time or two times that I went out and tried to bowl after being on my back for a month, that was difficult. But just like anything else, you're scared to like put forth the full amount of energy. I've just been like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Am I going to be able to hit the line? Yada, yada, yada. But for me, my performance in bowling always comes from my plans on what I'm doing off the lanes. Like when I was down for a month, I wasn't in the gym for a month. And now I go to the gym 5 to 6 times a week, every single week. So when I was down for over that month, what happens is, forget about losing the muscle mass or anything like that, but I lose a lot of strength. When you start lifting heavy, especially, and you lose and you give back that strength, that was one of the hardest things to overcome for me, because I got used to the execution being there almost subconsciously because I had strength. You
had all that stability going from the muscle already being stabilized, basically.
Exactly. So, but no, if anything, the only thing I've noticed is as I've gotten back into the gym, my performance is going up and I don't feel any pain in my back whatsoever. The only residue I have from the injury is I have nerve damage in my left leg. The outside of my left calf muscle is basically permanently numb. I'm assuming it's going to be numb for the rest of my life. So
it might not be. It can come back. You got to get traction. Nerves can regenerate up to 2 years, and especially when yours just happened out of nowhere. So that can come back. Got to get an inversion table or a good chiropractor like me.
Yeah, well, just move here. But
that works. $100,000 a year, cool.
I could do it. No, I can't. What the hell was I finishing? But what the hell was I saying with Steph?
Your performance. You're back. And now that you're working out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I said you could literally stab me in the calf muscle with a dagger and I wouldn't feel it. And the very bottom of my left foot like in the section of the balls in my feet where the 2 center toes are. The entire bottom of my left foot is completely numb. So I can't feel those 2 things.
That could be a trigger point. And do you have a foam roller at home?
I do.
Well, we'll talk after.
Yeah. But that's really the only thing I've noticed. I mean, weightlifting is fine. The only thing I haven't tried to do yet is swing a golf club. And when we were talking about the injuries from two-handed bowling, what scares me the most is to swing a golf club, because I'm afraid that one time that I torque through the hit zone, that disc is just going to slip another 11 millimeters in.
I mean, one little mishit, it sounds like, because I mean, I don't think you hit it, you just duck hooked the ball. I think it's one like it was like you got stopped short or anything. You didn't lay the sod over it. And
yeah, it was the second hole. It was early. I was like, typically when you're not loose, most of you push or slice most of your shots because you don't complete the hip rotation through it. And I said, well, make sure you don't fucking push one here, and I didn't. I made sure my hips cleared through, and they cleared,
there you go.
And that was it. Hello, Cheeks. Always a pleasure to see you.
Someone mentioned tennis elbow, and I'm curious. I would almost bet that a two-hander doesn't get tennis elbow because there's no thumb for one, and they're stabilized by the other hand.
I feel like Deanna knows what tennis elbow is, so. But, like, I think maybe she's asking what happens when you have it. Like, I got tennis elbow when I was playing baseball, and it's just extreme, crazy inflammation for me.
You can't lift a coffee cup. You can't turn a doorknob. You can't open a car door. Anytime you just squeeze, you feel pain. That's why those clamps work so good, because really what they do is, here's the tension right here on the condyle here or the condyle right here, and that clamp removes the slack from here to here where the tendon is. Tendon attaches to the muscle. So this clamp acts as the tendon site instead. And now you have slack from here to the clamp. So that's why it feels so much better. You're like, oh, wow, I have a different tendon site, basically. It's not going to make it go away completely, but you get through your 3 games with some Advil and Biofreeze in the clamp. But yeah, basically it's funny. I was just going to say, someone said squeeze. If you're squeezing the ball too much, you're going to get tennis elbow eventually, because that's the mechanics of it. It's by the squeezing, you're tightening up the tension on both condyles on your arm. All right, go for it.
No, that's actually super duper informative for me. And like, as far as Cheeks, if you have it bad, I mean, like Oach said, the remedies I used to use is, if you're in the act of doing something, you apply heat. So like a baseball pitcher that's pitching, you'll always see them put on a jacket when they go into the dugout, or they'll put on a jacket when they get on base, right? It's because they know they're going out the next inning, so they want to keep blood flowing to that area. Whereas the second they're done, it's 15 minutes of ice on, 15 minutes off of the ice to try and take down that inflammation. Am I right, Doc, when I say
you're
that?
100% on. You're 100% on.
So things like a mineralized stir, an icy hot, or anything along those lines while you're actually doing it. I mean, even for a little bit of mind.
A tennis elbow, you don't want, because that's a pitcher is doing it for therapy purposes also. And they're if they're injured, they're going to not be pitching most likely. They all have injuries, little tweaks, but if they have like full on tendinitis of a rotator cuff, they're going to be on the DL or something. But icing is perfect for tennis elbow. You're doing it fine, Cheeky. He's 100% right. So when you go to the bowling alley, you're going to biofreeze and put the clamp on. And you're not going to ice during it, because your icing is to take the inflammation away. It's going to even tighten it up more, unfortunately. So you kind of almost have to Advil for the inflammation, Biofreeze, muscle stim before the little TENS unit gimmicks. You put them on beforehand, and then you get through it. And then at the end, ice. 20 on, 20 off. Ice as much as you can. And a good friend of ours, Rondo, you remember him, JP, right?
Yeah.
Ron Paget, he
Absolutely.
had tennis elbow, thought he was going to have to stop bowling. I mean, now he lives elsewhere, so it don't matter. But 12 therapy sessions, he was back.
Kevin, same way. I mean, Kevin's comment, I mean, I remember even in the younger years, Kevin always wearing some kind of clamp on his arm when he would bowl. Now, granted, Kevin was, torqued the living shit out of the ball, literally tore the cover off the bowling ball. So I can understand, but even he was clamped up when he would bowl. Tammy, I'm sorry I missed your comment. Say hi to the family. After your spinal cord injury, you have permanent nerve damage. It's been 7 years now. What's the bottom of that say, Rob? Had to learn how? I can't read the rest of it.
Oop, hang on, wrong one. There we go.
That's okay. I had to learn how to bowl over again. Good news, I'm able to bowl better now than I was when I was healthy. You may need to adjust, but you're awesome. And, well, thank you very, very much. And I am. My game has always been about changes. Awesome. My game changes with my body change, and my body changes quite frequently. It's changed so much in the last 5 years, going up and down between the initial weight loss and then the muscle gain. My swing, it's amazing that my swing still even goes backwards before it goes forward.
That's true. Yeah, you were, your lats were almost in line with your hips, and now you're so much wider and tapered in. You're a giant V, and your lats are almost in the way, and you're 3 feet away from your hips because you're so damn wide. We could show a movie on your back.
But targeting that, and that's so funny because
and that'll make you reroute, though, won't it?
It not necessarily makes me reroute, but what it does is what
the average person
what my eyes see now is not like, in other words, when I feel like I'm playing straight up 5. Oh, when I feel like
that was
playing,
a do.
Thank you very much. When I feel like I'm playing straight up 5, when I actually think I'm playing straight up 5, I'm playing 12. Like my eyes feel like I'm on top of 5, but I'm wider, so my bowling ball is further away from my head, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, my God.
It's like,
compensate
so the whole rule,
7 boards, basically, for your width.
Right. Like, if you think you're hitting 10, if you want to hit 10, you got to look at 8 because everybody misses 2 boards inside of their target. It's like
you got to throw over 2.
Me, I'm like, oh, well, if I want to hit 10, I got to look at 1. it's fucked up.
Dan Babcock's in the house. Good evening, Dan. Next topic. I'm a little miffed at Bowl TV, especially their app. I tried to watch the stepladder finals on the Bowl TV app this weekend, and it wasn't on there. It was on the website, but I don't want to sit in front of my computer and watch bowling. I want to watch it from the comfort of my bed, and I couldn't watch it on the app.
That thing you just wrote looks like a lunch you had yesterday.
That's true.
Did you eat the Bowl TV app is poo-poo for lunch?
It's the
from the Hunan kitchen.
It's the poo-poo platter from the Hunan. Yeah. No, for all this money they put into it, all this money they expect from us to pay each month or per year, you think they could do better. And if they're going to have an app, you got to make sure that all your videos that are online on your website are on your app. So I don't know who's in charge of it, especially when you're the only home for bowling now, and that's what you're promoting. This is where bowling lives. Well, apparently not all of it lives there because it's fucking somewhere else. So they need to fix their app because it's
being the only game in town didn't really motivate them to have all their.
No, apparently not. And their production value is so it's like high school, video class or whatever. They have like 2 cameras that are just static, and they switch back and forth, and they have a little bit of graphics at the bottom of the screen. So it's like,
are we watching a different Bowl TV? Because I feel like they're doing a good job. I understand what you're saying that
he's probably thinking of ABC though, right? Like why?
Well, no, hang on. My question is because remember I bought the U.S. Open to watch, and then I did some commandeering of somebody else's account to watch the stepladder. Thank you, but. I mean, again, I only watch it on a computer. Like I'll have it on when I'm at my work computer. I'll open up another laptop and I'll have it next to me, right? But I think that the commentary is good.
Commentary is good. Yep.
They have a camera on every pair, but you're saying that you were unable to, on your mobile device, actually watch the stepladder live?
Yeah, it was not available on the app all weekend. Not even Monday.
Is that the constant all the time? I
don't know because I just started using it, so I can't speak for any other tournament.
Was it on demand later or no?
No, that's what I'm saying. It was on live, but then after the fact, it wasn't in the archive to be able to watch over the weekend. Right, exactly. But if I go on the website, it was there. So what I'm saying is the same thing that's on the website should be on the app if you're paying for the service. That's all I'm complaining about, really.
You watch on the app or the website? You watch on the app, right? Because you're looking at TV.
No, when I go to Bowl TV, I open it up on a laptop.
Oh, okay. So you
Now I have watched Bowl TV in the past on my cell phone also without any issues. So this is news. This is news to me.
But are you
also
still using the website or the actual app? Because I know there's a difference.
No, I don't have an actual app downloaded. I still visit
the website's consistent. It sounds like, and the app is where all the glitches are.
Got it. And since I don't have the app, Rob, that's why I was a little confused.
I gotcha.
But now I understand.
Rob, while you're on that, and you guys, and again, take this in a bit when you're done ranting if need be. But like I was watching a little classic bowling because that's sort of my jam.
Yeah.
And Chris Schenkel is talking about how he's like, we have, be sure to join us 16 weeks in a row, here on ABC. And I'm like, that's freaking 4 months of bowling on TV. What happened, dude? Has anybody said what happened?
Yeah, we had the U.S. Open, and then nothing's on TV for a month.
No, I mean, what happened? They had 16 weeks.
Yeah, well, that too.
I know I'm talking 1985 and 1986. I get it. What is there any reason, any excuse, not excuse, what happened? What happened that in 1989, there was only 15 weeks. In 92, it was 14 weeks. Is it a generation that just stopped watching? Do they have any idea? Sponsors just went to other sports. Someone has to, because if anything,
they did have big sponsors back then.
Well, no, of course, Budweiser and Firestone and
and they had a contract with ABC and Wide World of Sports.
Okay, well that's true. Okay, so
they had a
was it ABC that said I don't want this anymore? Is the networks? Was it the execs?
I don't remember. Not that I don't remember. I don't know, but I know that the fall of bowling started when the contract with ABC expired because you took it out of primetime television.
97-ish, is that when that was?
That was the last year, yeah.
Well, let me ask you this.
1997 Sinclair Classic was the last TV show.
Did it plummet or did it steadily go down? If
No, I mean, that's the craziest thing is I always use certain tournaments that I always recognize and remember the purses of, okay? So just to give you a prime example here, the Johnny Petraglia Open from 1990, it started in 1991, but I'm going to go from 1993 to 1997. In those years, 93, 97, first place at the JP Open was 34 grand. From 1991 to 1992, awesome. It was 29,000. 2000, 2001, it was 30,000, and then the JP Open stopped. The Tournament of Champions in the same era was $60,000 to the winner. And when it was the Brunswick World Tournament of Champions, it was $60,000 to the winner and a new Brunswick Bayliner boat. Yep. And you got, now the Tournament of Champions, I think, pays $100 grand, which is new, but there was a period where it was only paying 50, which is less than it was 30 years ago. And the regular purses of the tournaments right now, for instance, in Shawnee and Wichita, the first place prize check was $25,000. $25,000 was roughly the prize check for the Quaker State 250, the PBA National Championship, the True Value Open. Those are all tournaments that paid around $25,000 for first place. So they have figured out a way to make the money almost as good as the money was 30 years ago. And then they bump up the top in the larger events.
Make it top
to make
heavy,
to make it look like they're giving away a lot more money. When in retrospect, they're not.
Well, I mean, if you factor inflation over the last 30 years, that's not
the point.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about right now.
Right. Everybody knows 30 years ago, if somebody made 50 or 60 grand for a tournament, it should be about 250 grand right now. You know what I mean? Maybe even more.
Exactly like what Chris said. It's stagnant and it's going backwards, and it may be stagnant now, but it went backwards for so long. Derek brought up sponsorships, and we can always talk about that, all the money related reasons why it's struggling. But one of the main things, again, is exposure. Exposure is something that is so easy to do nowadays. I mean, I know more about people that like to dress up as elephants nowadays than I ever thought that I would have known. You have to get exposure. So at least in a time when it was on ABC, first off, there was no social media in the 90s. Their internet was relatively new. So people still looked forward to doing certain things that people no longer look forward to doing anymore. eventually everybody stopped going to Blockbuster Video and they started going to Netflix, right? I mean, certain things die out over time because there's no more need for them or any more exposure for them. Bowling used to be on at 3:00 on Saturdays on ABC. Number one, Saturdays, most people used to work from Monday to Friday from 9 to 5, and they would be home on Saturday. Bowling families would take their kids bowling for junior leagues in the morning. Then they would come home. The kids would eat a snack in front of the television and watch bowling at 3:00 on a Saturday.
Yep.
Kids that didn't bowl are turning on cartoons in the morning. Then they're going out to play and they're coming home for lunch and bowling is on. And the best part about it was
channels at this point, 8 channels for most people, besides cable.
Absolutely. And then the best part about it is football wasn't on Saturday. There was no football game that people would rather turn on Fox or CBS. So there wasn't 1,000 channels on a television. The bowling had the exposure because like you guys said, 16 weeks on ABC, 36-week season across whether it was CBS or ESPN, whoever covered it when the main tour wasn't being broadcast on ABC.
Wow. 36. I mean, just that's tour. That's a freaking tour, man.
Yeah.
ABC had the winter tour, and then ESPN or CBS or whoever else, depends. Every league they do a spring tour or whatever. Like it. Bowling was almost year round back in the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm. So now, first off, the absolute worst day you could ever put bowling on television is Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the absolute worst day. And even if you're not in football season, it's a shit day because it's not a super duper watched sport to begin with. And if you put it up against anything like a prime time sport like football, or Sunday night baseball, no one's going to watch it.
I think even golf, because golf is the final round on Sunday. I think golf rips a lot of it too.
And NASCAR. NASCAR starts in February.
Right, they don't have ratings problems for some reason, they got all 4 days on TV.
And Fox does NASCAR and PBA, so that's just a conflict of interest. That's when it goes to FS2 or FS1. So. That's another issue too.
College hoops was interrupting the U.S. Open, and I mean, like
it was
women's college hoops
for a half hour.
That's
no, but imagine
like I'm
just facts, right?
Imagine the Masters at Augusta, and the final round starts. Even though the leaders they don't tee off for 2 more hours. Imagine that getting preempted with a basketball game or something like that. Like it just ain't gonna happen.
See, like Chris is bringing up some good points here because this is what I'm talking about is Chris is the guy that got me into bodybuilding, in case you guys didn't know that. He was the one that actually started my training a little over 4 years ago. And he's saying there's more money in bodybuilding, and it's even more of a niche than bowling. That's what's crazy to me is our niche should be at least large enough to generate some kind of productivity, something more than what we've got. It's just a little nuts to me that it's almost embarrassing that I feel like I talk about it every week and I never do anything about it. I think that's a little hypocritical.
Well, it's also, it's the casual fan that used to watch that doesn't, like you said, your dad's name was a big name he was a rock star. No one knows who Anthony at that time. No one knows who Anthony Simonson is except people who bowl. So you know what I'm saying? And that's where the airport test.
There's more money in
the airport.
There's more money in poker. There's more money in fucking cornhole.
How? So ABC went off, and then the sponsors obviously once ABC's gone, the sponsors are I guess that's the trickle down, and then you almost have to blow it up from within and then start from scratch. It sounds. If that's what they tried to do, I don't know, but
and if you don't have a decent TV contract, doesn't matter who your sponsors are, you're screwed.
But like he said before, it's social media now. UFC was only on pay-per-view. UFC wasn't even allowed on pay-per-view for a while.
No.
But Dana White, I think a reality show of bowling is the way to go next, man. You put them in a house and try and give them a tour contract.
Well, at this point, it's a shame. At this point, it's a shame that there hasn't been one yet. There is a reality TV show for everything. And if you get it on a streaming service like a Netflix, a Hulu, or just people watch anything on there. I mean, people are looking for shit that they've never seen before on there. I know more about scandalous murders with rich lawyers in small towns and the shit that serial murderers used to eat off of their victims than I ever thought I would. I know more about sharks and fish that don't generate any color or sight. Like, you learn everything there is to know about anything in the world on there. And it's absolutely crazy that you don't take people. I'll give you a prime example. You can build it just like any other show. You need 4 different characters on the show. You need a legend that's kind of like a dork. So you need a Walter Ray on there. You need a real genius dork who doesn't really have a sense of humor, who doesn't really know much about anything in the world other than science, horseshoes, and bowling. But he's a genius. He's an absolute genius. And he's the best to ever do it, right? You need the best bowler in the world, Jason Belmonte. You need somebody like Justin Knowles, a tattooed, brand new lefty from, I don't even know where he's from. I want to say he's from Michigan, who's trying to make it, who's a little bit rowdy. And then you need somebody nutty like Kyle Troop. You need somebody that looks a little bit different.
You need somebody cranky too, like Pete Weber. Like, you gotta have.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, throw Sean Rash on there.
Or Sean Rash, yeah,
to do everything you always wanted to do, but like for extra money.
You and then put an open bar.
Right. Yeah.
But like I don't understand. I mean, there's got to be a millionaire. There's got to be somebody with television connections out there. There's got to be somebody with some kind of experience, because that would be awesome. And what's great about that is you can do a bowling reality show at any level. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be just the pros.
Sure.
You could have a hell of a reality show just filming up and down, talking to people that bowl league with me on Tuesday night.
Right.
There's something special going on every single pair in that house. And every week that I go in, what's crazy is I'm starting to learn stuff, because now everybody films themselves when they bowl. It's like the new thing.
Right.
So when I get home from league night, oh shit, there was a camera right here. I get to watch my entire league night. Now I could study my own game. It's something that needs to, unfortunately, it needs to happen. It's a shame that we haven't.
Chris is calling bowlers ugly.
Well, before we get to that, I actually have recently met some filmmakers and producers, because I'm starting a podcast with wrestler Teddy Hart, who was featured on Peacock and Dangerous Breed, and people think he's fucking nuts, and I mean he is, but it's but he introduced me to producers that film documentaries and stuff like that. So maybe if we could get together and get a good pitch and pitch it to them, like maybe they'd be interested in starting something like that. You never know. So we'll have to work on that off air. But
I'll take care of it right now.
Okay.
There's a couple old shows, and this is for everybody watching. If you want to watch something interesting and you haven't seen or heard of this, there were 2 documentaries done that showcased the life of a bowler, and
the League of Ordinary Gentlemen or something like that. Was that okay? Go for it.
That's one. League of Ordinary Gentlemen is one. The other one is called Pin Gods. And I can't remember which one it was. I want to say it was Pin Gods, but it actually follows the story of a former touring pro named Bob Vespi from Florida. I believe Walter A. Williams Jr. was in there, Wayne Webb, and maybe P. Weber. But they really give you, from a bowler's perspective, which is in by no means the glorious life that you would in other words, like when you go into MTV Cribs, into Mookie Betts' house, or you go and have a Sunday conversation with Shaq, you're talking to a different breed of a famous athlete. So what was cool about these shows is they allowed you to see what the best bowler in the world lived like, Walter Ray. They allowed you to come onto his motorhome and see his beautiful home in Florida at the time.
Oh my God.
Then they got to show you Wayne Webb, who was one of the PBA's 20 millionaires, the first 20 millionaires. And then you got to watch Wayne Webb and his sponsor talk about, wow, $1 million in earnings. I wonder where all that went. And then immediately showing Wayne Webb in front of a slot machine. And Wayne Webb talking about, like, being real about how he gave away his entire life on tour, that he was to a point that there was absolutely nothing. Then you watch the story of Bob Vespi, who's trying to become Rookie of the Year, and it's a very interesting take on things that outlie just bowling itself. If you get, again, those are League of Ordinary Gentlemen and Pin Gods. I'm pretty sure you can find them on YouTube or anywhere like that.
All right.
But yeah,
our next topic is something that happened in 2020, but it's starting to make the rounds again, especially in all the bowling groups. I'm going to pop it up on the screen here. February 28th, 2020, we would like to congratulate Shelter Insurance out of Concord Bowl for setting the new world record 5-person single game of 14:57. Way to go, gentlemen. So we got 289.
That hasn't been broken yet?
14:57.
Yeah. 289, 300, 279, 300, 289. 2 300s in the same pair.
What's a good aggregate score for that you'd normally see?
Oh, I'm going to give you an idea here. Let me give you an idea here, Och. Okay. On a 5-man team through 9 frames, there's a total potential strikes amount of 45. Okay.
They had struck 43?
44 of the first 45 shots as a team.
So they had lousy 10th frame.
They had a chance to go 1479 going into the 10th frame.
So
they missed 3 times collectively.
I get it. I get that it's a high score. So what would be a good score? Like, let's just so for comparison for the average fan, the casual fan, when they say 1457, well, what does that mean? What would, is 1200 a good score? I'm trying to think of I can't add so quick.
I'm 230 in league. So if you have 5 of me, that's 150 over. So 1150 is a good game.
Oh, that's averaging 230.
Yeah, if you average 230, and so does everybody else on your team, and you all bowl 230, you shoot 1150.
Oh my God.
1250 is massive. That's everybody averaging 250 for the game.
I mean, I can see the scores were huge. I wasn't so now to put it in perspective, we know how hard. Well,
the best game you can bowl as a 5-person team is 1500, and they shot 14.
Yeah, it's like
7.
Yeah, that's yep. I got you.
Yeah,
someone will beat it.
Yeah, somebody will beat it, and that's what's so nuts. Like, I respect throwing that many strikes. I really would have loved to have been on the pair to hear them talk about the breakdown and do you think I should change balls or are you getting this or you get guys,
but they probably had an 8-board.
Your fucking mouths.
They had 8
this
boards
has
to
nothing
hit.
to do with your talent. You have one board and it's a surfboard laying this way. It's okay if they're easy, but please don't act like you guys are all of a sudden just the greatest shot makers in the world.
But also, look, the pins still have to go down, man. You get wrapped. There's 10 pins. That's what's wild about it is they still have to go down, and sometimes they don't.
It's definitely a magical night. That's for sure. I mean, if you ever. Christ, dude, 1457. Come on.
You go nights where you hit the pocket and you shoot, 700. Okay, what's 700? A 230? I don't even know. 234 average.
But every day I'm looking at Facebook groups and you see just regular people with the shittiest releases you could ever see or the worst approaches throwing 300s at will.
I'll tell you an article I read probably 10 years ago by Rick Riley, used to write for Sports Illustrated. Everybody knows who Rick Riley is if you're into sports. He wrote about bowling, and he didn't write about bowling often. Yes, you do, you lying sack of balls. He wrote whatever, a bunch of shit.
Of course he did.
And Rick Riley?
Rick Riley, he's a sports reporter, he's a journalist, he's a sports writer, he's on TV. You see, look up his face. YouTube his name. Google his name. You'll see, that's the guy, and you'll say yes. Anywho, he wrote that it was in 1981 or something. There was, I think, 5 million or 6 million league bowlers, and there was only 1,200 sanctioned 300 games. And he said in 2005, there was only 2 million league bowlers, and there was 52,300 games thrown. And obviously, they didn't get that much better. And even with less bowlers, it's just obviously the equipment and all that. But he was just putting the effect of what gives, in no other sport was there such a disparate, in golf, all of a sudden everybody, scratch golfers. So things like that, but it's a wicked awesome article. And
I grew up in a great bowling house, Bradley Bowl in Windsor Locks, Connecticut, and we had fantastic bowlers there. My stepfather being one of them. Litchi bowled out of there. Marcel Lassard. I mean, there's a lot of great bowlers out there. And sorry, I had a phone call coming in.
Marcellus Wallace.
And throwing a 300 was a big deal back then. It really was, and they were averaging
200 was the big deal.
And these are 220, 230 average.
There were like 5 honor scores in my league last night. You know what it does to me, dude? You know what it fucks with my psyche. Here's why. I did not have a good look last night at league at all. I started with an NV Tour playing in, and I bowled 225 clean, but I had hang on one lane. I had early hook on the other lane. So then I switched to my attitude control, my urethane ball, because I want to throw it a few times before Reno, because I haven't used it since that miraculous number that I shot. I tried it. I bowled 2-teen the second game, and I'm like, man, they're still just kind of funky. They were ultra cliffed. Like, there was mega bounce on the gutter and mega hold in the middle. As long as you didn't get too deep, there was this little trough there. So I switched to plastic the last game, and I shot 270 and shot a small 7. Like, it's crazy. Like, and I'm watching the other people in the building. Like, there's a big right-hander that bowled almost back-to-back 300s, bowled 300, 290. Another lefty who's been out of the game for a while, his name's Justin Spurrier, a really good player. He bowled 300 last night. A guy I play golf with, Mike Carter, another lefty, shoots 299 last night. There were just astronomical numbers everywhere, and there are every week in the plaza. Meanwhile, I'm like, fuck, I'm just like quietly averaging 231, but I haven't bowled. I'm like the only person in the league that hasn't bowled 300 this year or 800, which sucks because South Point pays you $400 if you do that, and I could really use the extra cash, you know. But it's a mental block to me. It's like I'm watching. I don't want to call out anybody here, man, but
you're watching inferior athletic guys
that are inferior bowlers kick the living shit out of me.
Let's let me pull this video up here.
John Sperone, this one's for you. This is definitely, if you guys haven't seen this yet.
Wow.
One more time. I feel like we didn't see the beginning.
Sure.
Here we go.
I don't see the issue.
No, me neither. I think it's absolutely perfect. All right, here we go, buddy. Do your thing.
I mean, up to the release. He's standing on for a free throw, Patrick Ewing style. Now he's going for a Randy Johnson fastball.
I like the shimmy.
Actually, look more like a Jeff Facero kind of fastball.
And he couldn't even bury it.
So
come on, dude.
So here's the thing about this video. I don't know if it's real. I don't know if he does it every time. But that guy looks really, really good in steps 4 or 5, doesn't he?
That's what I was saying. Basically, his release is good.
Yeah, I know. So I don't know if that was a joke or not. If he really, really does that every time, I'd like.
It's a long night of bowling too.
I would like to speak to his coach. Yeah, and that's a really long night of bowling for everybody else involved. And he had, like Steph said, there was so much work just to get 8, and then the slap afterwards, like he expected it to be more than that. Like, what are you doing? Chris says it's real. Chris, why is it real? Chris, please don't make me shit on this person. I don't even know them.
It's still real to me, dude.
Why is it real? Do you know this person? Tell us why he does it.
It's definitely that was so much work just to get 8.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, you feel like the guy said, it's like watching Norton from the Honeymooners, and Ralph's got to go, well, you hurry up with this.
There's a kid that shot 300, I don't know if it was this week or last week, and when he bowled, like, he turns his hand completely around. Like, he spins the fucking ball and then releases it. Like, when it comes in his backswing, he, like, twists the ball and comes back around. He shot 300. So, I mean, like...
He's unlocking the key or unlocking the magic and then locks it as he releases it.
And people give him shit all the time in the Facebook groups, but...
Chris said it's real, and he's 220. Thank you, Chris. Thank you very, very much.
Wow.
I'm trying it tomorrow.
Now we have to discuss it a little bit more since it's real.
I'm trying it tomorrow. So somebody send me that in my inbox.
That's in your...
I'm going to try it. I guess I have to try it, too. I mean...
It's in your Facebook message.
With your bad back, you shouldn't be throwing anybody.
Not for nothing, Mike Lickstein looked pretty wacky getting to the foul line. And
yeah, but he didn't do a fucking... Like a tango or whatever. Like, what the...
yeah, whatever that was.
He was like serving
as I say that, Chris
tray. He was like serving somebody's dinner, you know, as he's standing there like...
The only thing I liked was the shimmy.
Lobster tails.
Yeah, that was it. What are you gonna do? That's what do I have left here?
Learn to release at least.
League talk. Johnny, how you doing in your how you doing in your league, buddy?
I'm doing okay. Like I said, I'm on a stacked team. I'm on a really, really good team. I've shot anywhere between 7-0 and 760 pretty much for the last 2 months. I don't know if I ever broke anything trying to imitate Lich, Chris. I definitely may have fallen at the foul line when I tried to plant and possibly rolled my ankle. Rob, do you have something else you want to discuss? Because if not, I have 2 things that I wanted to bring up.
Nope, I got nothing else. What else do you want to talk about?
Well, the first one is a post that I actually spotted from Jeff Riggles, the famous sports reporter for bowling. He made a post earlier, and I'm just curious what everybody's thoughts are on this. Chris, you have a better memory than me, bro. You know mine's gone. If you remember what it was, let me know. I don't know. And Jeff, I totally agree. I mean, imagine 3 more of that guy bowling at the same time as him and people walking in just to go bowling. Like, what the fuck is going on here? Riggles writes, in the greater Dayton USBC, so that's Dayton, Ohio, United States Bowling Congress, there was a tournament conducted, and it allowed a team to wait past the start time instead of the late player getting 0. So in other words, if you're late for the start of the tournament, typically the person or persons that are missing get 0 for the frames until they show up. They don't just delay the entire tournament. To be clear, there was no weather, crash, or act of God type thing. I was just told that USBC declined a petition/appeal to right this wrong because the team that they waited for won the tournament, and they would not have won the tournament had those frames been filled with 0s. Riggles says if there's rules, they must be enforced. If they aren't enforced, they need to be changed or eliminated. Failure to do that makes you shy of being a real sport. So the Greater Dayton USBC writes, I'm aware of the situation that occurred on Saturday, 2/18/23 during the 10 a.m. shift. The officials working the tournament that day allowed the team to wait. After discussing with USBC headquarters, the scores bowled will stand. This is an unfortunate error. However, the decision has been made, and this is final. Please do not comment on this post. If you have any questions, contact the office. So, What's your guys' take on that? You enter a team tournament, you go with all your buddies, whatever, and they hold up the tournament so somebody can get there on time instead of giving that person 0s, and that team wins the tournament.
Unless it was a funeral procession, that's horse shit, man. Why? It's absolute horse shit. It's absolute horse shit, especially if it's spelled out what the rules are for missing frames. It's not like it was an area like that's gray and you're like, well, that's a new precedent. We don't know what to do here. Let's vote on it. You've had this shit in place that's so. What a discredit. What a discredit to the people that showed up. What a discredit to this sport. But that's it. It's such gimmicky shit like that is all that's making a mockery of it. Because who's going to take it seriously then? Who's going to even want to bowl in a tournament again?
Exactly.
You're like, some dude's going to show up in an hour and they're going to let him pre-bowl and then fucking whatever. You know what I mean?
Tammy, to answer your question before it goes by, typically in league, if you're late, you have until the 4th frame and you don't get any 0s.
That's what I know.
Typically, if you show up late to league, if everybody else has completed 3 frames and your guy shows up, they bowl their 3 frames. They don't get any practice. They don't get any 0s. They don't have to wait till the next game if they're there before the completion of frame 4.
Right.
I don't think that has changed. That's always been a pretty steady constant there. But yeah, so basically what everybody else is saying is exactly how I felt about it too. I want my money back. It's bullshit. No way it should be allowed. Jeff says, wouldn't it be like being late to league where you get until okay. So Jeff says it's the 3rd frame. It may actually
I think it depends on the league.
It could be, but there's always that. It's less than half the game for sure.
Right.
USBC is a joke. Yes, we absolutely know that. Thank you, John.
Yeah, it was 5th frame by mine.
Derek says it's in frame 5 where he is. Chris says the obvious. Yes, we know. Chad sucks.
Well, as far as the USBC's...
And yes, the teammates will usually slow down, like especially if you know the teammates are on the way. Dude, I blew a tire. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Go grab a beer or something. Yeah, okay, fine.
Regarding
this was a tournament.
Regarding
like if you miss a roll call in PBA, you get fined. Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
No, you're fine. Regarding what the USBC said, they don't want to contradict with the people that are running the tournament because then you're going to have heat with each other, and they don't want to do that. It's a funny analogy, even though it's fake, and Ocho might know this reference. This happened in wrestling back when Hulk Hogan lost to The Undertaker. The referee did not see Ric Flair throw the chair into the ring when Undertaker gave Hogan the tombstone on top of it. When they asked WWE President Jack Tunney what happened, he says, the referee's decision is final. So he said we couldn't overturn it because the official that we appointed had already made that decision. So USBC doesn't want to have any heat between them and the tournament officials because it's just going to create friction between them, and they want to have a synergy and all that. And they're capable enough to make a decision at the time during the tournament. That's the decision that they made. It is what it is. Now, going forward, can they stop it from happening again? I'm sure. I'm sure that probably wouldn't happen again, especially in that house. But I do kind of understand why the USBC made that decision. Even though it's not right, it is what it is.
I'll give you a real example.
Yeah,
it's like how a city council member gets out of a speeding ticket because of who he is, and the average Joe citizen pays the fine. Rules for thee, not for me. That's the kind of shit that they're doing. They're acting like because they're a governing body of this tournament that they're a governor. They're acting like government. And that's what that limited teensy bit of power does to go to your head. I still don't know how there wasn't a revolt, how there wasn't like a freaking civil war there.
I mean, the people that are bowling should have said something like, "What the fuck? This ain't right."
But again, they're still bowling. So, what can you do? You can't have a walkout or I don't know. They all got their.
That's
money.
what I was concerned. That was I was curious too. I mean, I don't think everybody's going to just walk out. They may have not even. I don't know how it went down.
Maybe they didn't know until the third freaking game. For all you know,
Jeff, I don't know if it was for one bowler or for one team. I don't know how long they delayed it. Jeff Riggles, Richgels. It's on his wall, and I think that there's a link there for the. You may be able to find something more there. Chris asks, hasn't my dad been advocating for USBC dues going to PBA events? A long time ago, when we first started losing memberships, or before that, when we actually had like 5-6 million members, not the sub 2 million that we have now. My dad always said, they're always raising dues every year. League dues used to be $19, $21. I think league dues are up to what the fuck are they now? $89 a year? I don't know if that's a joke. But I think they're around, $30 to sanction yourself now? And my dad always said it's as upsetting to like with the USGA's relationship with the PGA. The reason the US Open is the shittiest golf tournament there is because it doesn't follow PGA guidelines. The USGA eliminates 2 par 5s, makes them par 4s, and tells you the course is really, really hard. And then they make the grass impossible to hit out of.
They make it huge rough, and they stimp, and they make the greens like freaking sheets of ice. And then you say, if you test your skill.
Right. So if you shoot even at the US Open, you actually shot 8 under because you're 2 under every day. You're not even. So when you win the US Open at +3, it's a skewed system. So anyway, that's why the USGA sucks, because it doesn't follow the guidelines, right? The USBC, it's the exact same thing when you compare it to the PBA. They are completely separate identities. Yep. They're entities. So my dad's thought was always, if you're going to charge normal Joe Bowler $22 a year in dues, charge them $24 a year. And then of the 3 million members, take 2 of those dollars, which is $6 million, and put it into the yearly prize pool for the PBA. Give them $300,000 top prizes at the majors. Give them $100,000 first place prizes at the regular stops. Distribute 52 checks a week like you used to. And instead, they don't do anything like that. Now we have limited fields to 66 players, PTQs that have a 1 in 8 ratio of bowlers that actually make it, and a dying sport. Even though that they'll push and they'll constantly say, Johnny, you don't know what you're talking about. The ratings are the best they've ever been. We're getting engagement from fuck you guys. I mean, with all due respect, kiss my fucking ass. Because
when there's only 8 telecasts per year and they brag about the ratings, if you put on one Yankee game a year, you're going to get an awesome rating, but every Yankee game's on. So the ratings probably go down after game
and if Kyle Troop or Jason Belmonte are making $1 million a year, take a guess what happens, guys. Randomly, a bowler has a shoe at Foot Locker. Or a bowler has a jersey on the wall in Champ Sports. Something like that could actually happen, like we always say, but it's always about money. And the USBC and Chad are obviously very concerned with catering to their own pockets, more so than growing the sport at the professional level. They may do a lot for the kids and the youth, and they may sponsor all these events, but for the most part, they're doing everything they need to do to take care of themselves and not for people that actually love the sport of bowling.
Can't you say the same about Bolero too, though?
100%. The exact same wagon. They're on the exact same wagon. For at least for me.
Yeah.
They can kiss my ass.
I love it.
Even though I say that, but I fucking pay them.
Of course. Of course.
And I go bowl the
taxation is theft, but by the way, I'm going to pay them all the time because I don't want to get.
But when they're the only governing body and you love that sport, what are you going to do? You don't have a choice.
Only game in town, same thing. And there's no oversight committee. There's literally no oversight.
No competition at all. It's one company that owns basically everything, and it should be a monopoly. But it is what it is. Anything else you want to cover, Johnny? I got about 8 minutes left. 6 days.
Yeah, I have an interesting post that my doubles partner sent me earlier today. So
he's already giggling. You could hear the way he said it.
I am not going to call out an individual by name because I think it's crappy, and I think that since it's public information, if you were really curious,
is that a shot at me?
No, you're the one that called. No, it's not a shot at you. It's letting you know that as unfettered as I am, I'm not going to give the actual first and last name of the person who I'm calling an idiot this time.
Okay.
So in a way, I'm protecting myself while simultaneously calling this person an idiot.
Gotcha.
So, whoever he may be, Rob or she.
So. And for those of you who would like to know who this is, you can find it in the USBC Bowlers Discussion Forum from approximately 6 hours ago.
There you go.
It says, now granted, this has 16 thumbs up, wow faces, and laughing faces, but it has 116 comments. And then Stephanie was gracious enough to highlight what most of the comments are by just selecting 2, which I'll read for you after the post.
I gotta join? Oh.
Yeah.
Christ.
So.
Okay.
I'm not going to say the person's name because that would be indiscreet. Jim Snell says this. So, yes, I just did all of that for nothing.
Somebody contact Jim Snell right now.
What do they call a tournament where you only bowl one game on a pair before moving to a different pair for the next game?
Isn't that a tournament?
A tournament?
Stephanie's first most common answer says a tournament.
Oh, my God.
And
this is a joke.
And then she says her personal favorite was not the Open Championships. So, yes, this person got on the USBC forum, who's obviously a newbie, and or I hope they're a newbie, or I hope that I didn't just call out somebody who has a mental issue that, if there's some underlying thing, Jim, I'm really sorry, but,
you put that disclaimer in. That's good of you.
What do they call a tournament where you only bowl one game on a pair before moving to a different pair for the next game? I guess, this is maybe a person whose only tournament they've ever competed in is USBC National Championships. It's got to be, because that's the only tournament I've ever bowled that you don't move pairs every game, right?
Yep.
I don't know if I've ever bowled a tournament. Anyway, that one I felt was worthy enough to at least bring up tonight. So
did everybody else answer? I mean, properly, or is there some good ones, or I didn't join, so I can't.
I'm not joined either. That's what Steph sent me. I'm assuming because she knows.
Oh, gotcha. I gotcha.
But then she also, the last thing I'll bring up is, and I would like to spend, I have 3 or 4 minutes left, Rob.
Yep.
I am a lefty, so I'm going to bring up the righty-lefty dilemma. Steph also wanted me to bring up the fact that she's very close friends with Jacob Buttriff. So they had recently spent some time together up in a tournament back home on old wood surface at Jordan Lanes, actually. And she said that between Springfield, Shawnee, and Wichita, there were only 3 lefties that got a check. And that was Jacob, Matt Sanders, and Anthony Nyer. And she wanted me to see it. She wanted to know if I had any views on that. So here's my views on that. I am no longer going to say that it favors left. See you, Brett. Thanks for stopping by as always. I'm not going to say anymore. I'm done with the righty-lefty discrepancy thing now, because nowadays it's pretty clear what you have to do on the left side. You have to do well on the weeks that it's there for you, and you have to be able to slow hook urethane. You have to be able to hit it hard or throw it hard or both, or some combination, right? And just like every other year on tour, the oil patterns that they use, there are certain kinds of games that fit the mold. Tomas Kaika, ever since he got here from Finland, he's in the running every single week, it seems, right? But nobody's ever heard of him. He matches up. Christian Azcona, we saw him make like 3 shows last year. I don't think he's gone plus once this year. So there's somebody being affected in the opposite way. But only 3 lefties getting a check over 3 weeks. Yeah, it sucks. But we also had Kevin Williams both for the title the week before. We had Justin Knowles make a TV show at the most impossible pattern in the world. And if you make a TV show at the U.S. Open on the left side of the lane, that's something really, really, really special. So I think what's happening righty to lefty so far is actually kind of right on point. I think these last 3 weeks have sucked for the left, absolutely, but that's going to happen all the time. There is not really an imbalance ring because, again, there's only 66 guys bowling a week. And when you take out the PTQ guys, I really only think there's 7 lefties in the main field every week. I mean, you see Ryan Simonelli, you see Buttriff, you see Jesper, you see Nyer, Matt Sanders. Who else am I missing on the left side besides those guys? I mean, Packy. There's not enough lefties to warrant that that's really an issue right now. I don't think it's
our fellow Russo.
Matt Russo, there's another one. I don't think that there's enough lefties yet. But then again, I don't know how many guys cash in the event either.
Right.
If there's only a 66-man field, how many checks are they handing out? Are they handing out 33? Brandon Runk, sorry, I forgot about him too. If they're handing out 33 checks a week, so they're handing out a third of the field checks every week, and only 3 lefties have cashed in that time, yeah, that's some serious damage. But again, if it goes 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks, then all right, then maybe that's like, what are you guys doing? I mean, but it's still too early to judge. I do understand if I was out there, I'd be throwing shit through my hotel room wall. I'd say, what the fuck am I out here banging my head when I have no chance from the minute the lights go on? But as a spectator from the outside, when you analyze the logistics and the numbers so far, it's still a little bit too early to tell. And it's not like we've seen lefties wiped out the entire time. So I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon that the left is shut out just yet.
Real quick, Ocho, how are you doing your league, buddy?
I'm awesome.
No, I mean, like, what's your average?
Doesn't matter. We're winners. We 211-ish. You know what I did? So last week I was trying something, struggling with the thumb hole, so I took the tape out of the bowling balls, and I was much worser. So I put tape back in the bowling balls and shot 675. I don't even know if I texted you guys because I don't really like you too much.
No, you don't.
So 675. It was a grind though too. I didn't get much. I didn't put many together, and then but I still was able to put it for a 675. I think it was 225, 225, 233 something. What does that even equal? I don't even know. I think
235 to 35 is 70, and 23 would make it 93. So
no, 225, 223, 225, 233.
81, 681.
Sounds like a great night to me.
681, just like I said.
Chris's question. Sorry, Oach, when you're done.
You're good.
You know me with the time crunch, so I don't want to keep Rob. But Chris says, does this happen in golf, righty versus lefty? It's not talked about in golf as much, but I will tell you that when the sport of golf, the gentleman's game of golf was created, was during a time that lefties were non-existent. Every golf course you play was designed for a right-handed golfer. Think about it. Think about the layout, the dog legs of the holes, the positioning of all of that. Like, there is a reason why you only see a couple lefties at the pinnacle level in golf. There's a reason why. And the reason is because the game is more suited for a right-handed swing from hole to hole. That's always actually been.
I bet you there's less lefty. There's more lefty bowlers than there are lefty golf, or at least I guess that we see. I don't even know. Now that I think about it,
can we think of any left-handed golfers?
How many do you see on TV?
Mike Weir, Phil Mickelson, and that's really
that's what I'm saying. So there's much less golfers than there are lefty bowlers.
Well, at the pinnacle level, yes.
Yes, exactly.
But you can
imagine. But imagine how good those left-handed golfers are.
Right.
Imagine
only two.
how good you have to be to win 50 times on the tour like Phil Mickelson did.
I mean, Mike Weir only had a few wins, and he won the Masters. He won the year before Mickelson won, actually.
But think about it, though. You can change the pattern to make a lefty house better, and you can't change a fucking golf course other than pin placement. I mean, the greens, but like the course is the course.
Right.
Right.
So imagine doing all that work and finally learning how to play Augusta National, which, by the way, is one of the very, very few courses. Oh, I forgot Bubba Watson. Is one of the very few courses that is a level playing field for righties and lefties, which is why you see lefties win it more. Because every single shot
too
is a different direction. You have to
there's dog legs right, dog legs left,
everything.
Yep. Undulation.
You need every tool on that course, 100%. But like you said, Rob, you can't. The only elements you can change is the pin placement. You can change the speed of the greens, but everything else stays constant. Yeah. In bowling, the lane man decides who is going to be on the TV show at the start of the tournament. That is, unfortunately, the way our game is.
The only similarity is the lanes are all the same length and the pins are the same weight, basically, and then everything else changes right from there.
Think about this: people are always talking about. Equipment changed the game, right? Yada, yada, yada. Guys, equipment didn't change the game. Oil patterns dictate the game. I don't care what bowler, 60 of the best bowlers in the world that bowled that U.S. Open. I don't care what ball they drilled. I don't care if this guy's throwing a Ruby IQ and this guy's throwing a Primal whatever fucking Venom from Motive and this guy's throwing the new Widow 2.0 and this guy's got an archetype. The tournament leader averaged 215. Because of the oil pattern. The oil pattern dictates the scores that we bowl, and it also dictates the kind of bowlers that get to the top. And the best bowlers in the world on both sides of the lane get to the top more often than other bowlers. The best bowlers in the world, Weber, Belmo, Simo, Parker Bone, Mike Albee, Earl Anthony, Mark Roth. Take any generation you want, any oil condition you want, any bowling ball. I don't care. They get to the top a hell of a lot more than the guy you see seasonally. It's all dictated by it's kudos to them for their talent and then their work ethic and what they do. But the biggest thing about it is they are the ones that have been affected by the oil pattern the least or have adapted to the oil in front of them the most. So It's always lane condition. It is always going to be the lane condition that dictates everything. Nobody is ever going to shoot 1457 on the U.S. Open pattern like that fucking team did in 2020.
Yeah.
Nobody. It will never happen. Nobody will ever go out and average 240 while the other 50 guys that are the best in the world are averaging 210. It doesn't happen at all. So that's my 10 cents on that.
No, I mean, that's why Walter Ray and Norm, they're able to, last as long as they did, through all the different generations, through all the different equipment, through all the different lane conditions, and still be at the top of their game, even in their 50s and 60s. So, you are right. The cream of the crop will always be there. And Ocho's always going to, average 211.
I don't know anything about bribery on the tour, Chris. I'm sure it had to exist at some point. But I don't know. I wish I did. It
existed in pot bowling, that's for sure.
That's fair.
That's for sure.
That's a whole show. But anyways.
All right, guys, that wraps it up for this edition of Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. Thank you to everybody that showed up tonight here on Facebook and YouTube. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please search Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. on YouTube. Subscribe, watch our past archives. And anybody watching on YouTube that's not familiar with the audio version of this podcast, you can find it where, Ocho?
Anywhere. I found it in a bowling. When I was putting tape in my bowling ball the other day, there was a podcast in there.
On all podcast
platforms.
Anywhere you find your podcast.
And tell your friends to download it too. In my thumb hole.
Yes.
That's a
we'll
movie.
Definitely have some more guests here coming up in the near future, and we'll let you guys know who they are and when they are.
Yeah, in my thumb hole.
Thanks for all the. That was a lot of interaction with our guests tonight.
Yes,
it was awesome talking to all you guys. Thank you all for being here, John, Cheryl, Chris, Doyle. It's always awesome when you guys are here because you're the reason we do this. So please keep on coming back, and love you guys for it.
Yeah, that's all I can say about that. Johnny summed it up very nicely. Nice summation there, champ.
Twitter.
For Ocho's Guns and Johnny's Beautifulness, I am Rad Rob. We'll see you next week. Take care, guys.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. You can follow the show on Twitter at Straight Up 5 Pod. Follow Johnny Jr. at JPJR07. Follow Rad Rob at Rad Rob Gaming. And follow Dr. Ocho at the Dr. Ocho. Got a question for Johnny? Send your questions to straightup5podcast@gmail.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Straight Up 5 with Johnny Petraglia Jr. Right here on the Rad Rob Radio Network.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.